Krista was on vacation, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
But not very often. Just when she's gone.
Gotcha.
Good evening. I now call the September 18, 2018 regular council meeting to order. Would council members please denote your presence by depressing your yes switch? Chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilman Morgan.
So move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Just a reminder, council meetings are televised on cable channel 192. Troop 1035, yes. Troop 1035 is here visiting us, and so if you guys want to come forward and lead us in the pledge, that'd be great. Thanks, gentlemen. Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the September 4th, 2018 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on September 12th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Walsh, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Any amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the September 18, 2018 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Laird. Any abstentions? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Now is the time that we do invite everybody in the audience who wants to speak to come forward and to address the council. Just make sure that you state your name and your address. And this was from Councilman Laird. Just be kind. That's what he told me to say. Come on up.
What you really wanted to say all along, because you're a kind guy yourself.
Brad, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Council, appreciate Brad Hopkins. I'm Executive Director at Wyoming Rescue Mission here with Denise Lyons, our Director of Philanthropy for the mission. Just wanted to thank you for your service to the community and hard work on these 1 cent allocations. I must say it's an amazing thing here in Casper, throughout the state of Wyoming that our communities have the option to vote in this extra penny to benefit and enhance the community in so many different ways. And at the mission, we're grateful for you putting us back on as an option for one of the allocations. We received some initial infusion, a little bit less than $300,000 at the start of our new Park Street Center. We are now nearing the end, still raising funds. We had a fantastic 0% bridge opportunity through the wonderful folks over at WCDA, which has cash flow the entire cost of the building. So a bit of a vision as our local philanthropy catches up, but on the back end here, some additional cost, unanticipated, tying into city infrastructure, along with, we initially thought we were going to be able to utilize CDBG funds for a $100,000 cost on tearing down the old fifis. Sad to see it go. We'll keep some samples for folks, but we are looking to move our first guest in Thursday. The men will start moving in. We just got our official temporary occupancy permit from the city, so delighted and grateful. Thank you for the work you do to allow us to more fully restore lives in need.
Brad, if you just stay for a second, I was going to do this at when we did around the table, but since you're here, I had the opportunity to go visit the new rescue mission for Compassion Sunday, and I was blown away not only by the facility, but I was also blown away by I had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time talking to the residents and the people going through, which program is it called again?
Going through the discipleship.
The discipleship program, and had an opportunity to meet some pretty amazing individuals and people that are just real. And these are Casper people. These are people that have moved here from other places, and so it did touch my heart. And so I wanted to let you know that you guys are doing some amazing work. And so it was an honor to be there on Compassion Sunday. So
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming and the proclamation. It was a delight to have you.
thank you so much.
You and your staff are doing an awesome job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. First come, first serve. Whoever darts first. Good evening.
Council members. I'm Mary Ann Schroeder. This is Ron Schroeder. We live at, can you even hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Much better.
Sorry. We live on 1221 Linda Vista, and we've been residents there since 2011. And we are here concerning the Kelly Walsh parking problem. We have, I'm sorry, I need.
Well, I live right there.
We never had a problem with the students parking on Linda Vista until we moved there, or until they started remodeling 3 years ago. We have visited with all the neighbors concerning this problem. We all believe that there definitely is a problem on Linda Vista. We are also in the process of applying for a homeowner's parking permit, I believe it is. This is why we are here, hoping that it will get approved. We have no parking in front of our house Monday through Friday from 7:45 to 3:45, and it goes sometimes into the evenings. And then unfortunately, when there's sports activities on Saturdays and Sundays, it starts there at 8:30 in the morning and it goes on until the late evening. The problems we have had and the problems we are having now are there kids smoking in the cars, there's trash on the streets, they're eating lunches in front of our house with the loud music playing, they're speeding up and down the Linda Vista, and they're revving up their cars real loud, vroom, 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 and, just keep on coming back and forth. It's really quite a nuisance. Last year, we personally had things stolen from our yard. We've had our house egged, and our garage door was BB gun. Not that we can prove this, but we never had any problems until we confronted the kids last year. This year, I'm not going to do that. Last year, I visited with Dennis Bay at the beginning, excuse me, Dennis Bay, he's the construction for the K-Dub parking, and he told me that at the beginning of this year, they would have plenty of parking for all students. Well, unfortunately, the problem started again when the football team and volleyball teams were back in session, parking in front of our cars. However, this time it started 2 weeks before school, and it went into the late evenings. I called the K-Dub school and the school district to inquire about the student parking again. Mike Jennings called me back, and he stated that he drove through K-Dub parking lot and that there were 45 spaces available. This was like September 6th. And then he drove through all the residential areas, which there's like 4 of us that are having this problem. Unfortunately, Linda Vista has more of it than anybody because we're right there. And he counted the cars that were parked, on all the residential area, along with the areas that are the spaces, and he said there's more than enough parking available for all students. And I was told by Mr. Jennings that the KW are supposed to enforce this, to tell the kids, please, do not park in the residential areas. There's plenty of school space, or parking, I'm sorry. I understand that NC had the same problems and that the students were not allowed to park in front of the residential area without getting the ticket. We are hoping for the same result by getting the homeowner's parking permit approved by the city. And we have like about 6 to 8 also residents that want to apply for this permit.
Okay, and I know Councilman Walsh also lives in the same area as well, and I know he wanted to say something too, because he's had other people contact him. So go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sympathetic to your problem. I'll tell you that when they installed the fence, I live on Kelly Drive, just up the road. When they put in the fence, that stopped the parking that was congestion our street really bad, because it's a barrier that makes you walk longer. I wondered about how it was down on your end, and you're exactly right. Characterizing it as there's a lot of traffic and noise doesn't do it justice. It's horrible because you're picking up trash, you name it, all kinds of stuff. So the permit that you applied for is a homeowner's permit. And is that permit, if I remember right, make it exclusive parking in front of their house?
I believe it is. That was to my understanding, but I also believe, what my concern is, there's a $25 fee per year, which I don't mind that, but then it's also to the city's discretion on if there is a problem. So they could turn us down and there is a
Well, I support you getting the permit. I'm going to tell you, when this was going on at NC, and I've got a long history of dealing with parking at schools, of course, but before they had the parking, we actually had the restricted parking zones, and the homeowners would get parking tickets. There would be special parking enforcement that would go out there. It's a double-edged sword sometimes, and sometimes it's the only hope you have. I didn't want it on my block just because anybody that came to visit me is going to get a ticket. And then the other aspect is the frustration when they park there and there's not a parking enforcement officer available to be right there on the spot. And it seems like that happens and somebody takes your spot and the spot's still gone. You've still paid money for it and you have to wait until there's an availability for somebody to get there. I wish I knew an easy answer for this. I wish that the fence solved your problem as well as it did up on my end of the street.
So early on, we had a meeting with the school district on SROs, school resource officers, and this was a conversation that we had with the superintendent, and he knew that this was going to be an issue because there is enough parking at this point. He did mention, and I know the city manager can attest this, we were having this conversation, that it's going to take a little bit of time to hopefully, I don't want to say train them, because I have 3 kids that go to Kelly Walsh, but to get them to be able to do that. But I'm wondering also if, Carter, if there's something that maybe we can have a conversation with the school district from the city level, and even involving the chief to have this conversation of how we can make a solution for you guys.
Well, unfortunately, it started not quite as many students, and now they're just coming back more.
Okay.
So, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, and the problem is the west entrance is not open to them, so I don't know why they park on our block, because they have to walk all the way around.
Right.
To get into the school.
Go ahead.
This is an issue of sports fields, and I would like to, I think a meeting with the school district and the chief is a good idea. Not hamper the residents with a restricted parking zone where them and all their friends are going to get tickets if they've got a second vehicle and all these other things. The issue, I don't believe, is retraining, and what this is convenience. It's closer to the ball field for me to walk to. I have morning practice, that's where I'm parking. The fence made it inconvenient from Kelly Drive. That solved the problem. There has to be a convenience method, and I think that convenience method is going to be some kind of unique parking restriction that doesn't penalize the residents, that does send a message that this is not where you park. And you're right, they're smoking, there's all kinds of things going on at lunchtime in front of your house, and it's pretty frustrating, so.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask our city attorney a question. And I know you may need to research this, but can we pass an ordinance that would prevent students from parking on these streets? Because I think that's what we should do, and that will keep them from parking on the streets. Put a sign up, no student parking. And that is, if you're right, folks, that there's enough parking for students already provided by the school district, then I think they should park there and not park on people's streets. And I think we should pass an ordinance to that effect, since we do own the streets, Mr. Manager.
Like I said, the point is, on our block, they all park there because they go into the west entrance. Now they can't go in the west entrance. So I don't understand why they still.
Well, an ordinance saying no student parking on your street will cure the problem. So it won't make any difference where any entrances are. They just shouldn't be parking there if there's parking for the school.
Leave the parking at the school.
So it needs to be taken care of.
Well, like I said, again, with that Michael Jennings, he's told me that there is more than enough parking this year for all students, and he counted it. And he said he did it like, he didn't do it first thing in the morning, he did it like mid-morning, just to kind of like prove a point, that they should not be parking in front of your
Right.
house.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think we need a reminder on how things are done around NC, because it isn't house by house. It's basically a portion of the street grid that has it has a certain designation. And I know that my kid, when he went to school there, he left late one morning, and he parked in one of those places, and he got a $50 ticket, and he never did it again. And so, I think, I don't know, I hadn't thought about, if you have guests that you're coming to your house, what a problem that would be, but I think, as far as I know, that NC procedure has worked, and so I would like to hear how that's been done so that you don't have to individually apply for permits.
Well, I had visited with all the neighbors on that block, and the ones that live a little bit up closer to 15th had told me that it has gotten better but it's more or less like 15 down, or not, 1,500 down. But that she works for NC, and she said that they don't have no problem at all, and they did that same thing. Most of them applied for that parking permit. They had it out there, and she said, as far as she knows, with all the new parking and everything, that there is no problem there at NC.
Well, a sign that says no student parking, $50 fine. Charlie's attested, that'll work. That'll keep the people off your street. So I would ask the city manager to ask the city attorney what we have to do, and then put it before the council for a vote.
Councilman Walsh.
Let me offer this suggestion. I think it would be wise for a meeting with the school district. I don't believe that there's any more restricted parking areas. I know that there weren't towards the end of my career around, not the traditional restricted parking that we had around NC, that went away. I think that a method that wouldn't even have to go through the criminal court, maybe work with the school district, have one of their people issue a citation that's a sanction through the school. It just requires something that says it's going to be inconvenient if you park here. That might be a good first step. Maybe we could even help with that. But probably the first step is to meet with the school district, see if there's any kind of common ground we can come to, but actually do something on that.
So if you would give us some time, this is the greatest phrase of government of all time, but if you would give us a little bit of time, I was just chatting with Councilman Walsh a little bit about the opportunity to maybe sit down with the school district Councilman Walsh and I from Ward 3 can be a part of that conversation, since we're sandwiched in between. I'm on Ivy and he's on Kelly. I don't want to speak for him, but if he'd be a part of that and having that conversation with the school district and seeing what we can come up with.
Yeah, if they mention it a few times over the intercom during the day or something at school, and just say, look, kids, we can't park on these residential areas because we've got plenty of parking at this.
Absolutely. Carter, is that something we can put together? Okay. If we can start that, and then if you could give our city manager your contact information, so that we have that, and so that Councilman Walsh or I can get back to you as well, so we'll stay in touch.
Okay, well, thank you. This is one of the most reassuring things I've had. It's been
Well, we'll look into it and we'll figure out something.
great. Thank you.
I know the feeling. It's been years, and you wait for the construction to end and think there's going to be.
And like I said, I've visited
Relief in
with
the site.
everybody, and, from the school district. I've called the city a couple of times. I've had many encounters with the police because of the problems. I've had kids parking on the wrong side, and, it's just really been nuts. And now we love it there, but,
I don't see it so much during the school day. I see it during the sports.
well, unfortunately, I'm there all day.
And
so.
you're, so you see that, yeah.
And we have other people, like I've visited with a lot of the neighbors, and they said they would also, if we want to get together as a group meeting or something like that, to address the situation, we have people that would come. to.
Absolutely. Great.
Okay.
Thank you guys so
And,
much.
hey, thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. And young lady.
thank you for
really
being
appreciate
kind.
it. Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Big sign, no student parking. See that guy back there in the white shirt? That's Steve Friel. He's running for councilman in your district, so you could, and he's a former police captain. So make sure he knows what you want done too.
Thank you, Council.
Appreciate it.
And should I give him my information now?
I think your husband already did, yeah. Great. Thank you, guys. Anybody else?
Yeah, my name's Greg Cunningham. I live at 1441 East Second Street. And what I'd like you guys to consider is a speed zone of 20 miles an hour in front of the hospital from Jackson Street to Fenway. And I guess because I live within a block and a half of the hospital, that's kind of like a drag strip for everyone that stops at the hospital, Conwell, and the hospital park, or the stoplight, to Papa Murphy's or Papa John's. And I'm just saying, I don't think that I've ever been anywhere where a street, you don't slow down. Conwell has a 20-mile-an-hour hospital zone. Jackson, I haven't checked that out because I don't drive that street very much. But I do, and I think that if you look back at a lot of your traffic accidents, there's been quite a few of them right there on Second and Conwell at the stoplight. And I think that by lowering the speed limit, we can maybe get a little bit more control of that area.
Any questions, comments?
You're talking about on Second Street?
Yes, I am.
Anybody else?
Second Street's been a drag strip since the 50s.
Well, I'm born here too, Dallas, and,
So you know.
and see why also. Where A&W was. So I guess I listen to it all the time. And unfortunately, and I'm going to kind of get off the subject, but when we talk about disturbance, rolling coal, rice burners, and motorcycles are as biggest problem in the city of Casper. I know that you guys tried to do a noise control thing, and you had 100 motorcycle riders in here contesting the situation. That's been a while back. But I think us as citizens need to get back into, I don't know about you, Dallas, but I got a ticket when I took the baffles out of my 350 Honda. We're talking a long time ago.
Should have if you were driving a Honda. If you'd had a Harley, they wouldn't have bothered you.
But I feel that we've kind of let the minority run the majorities, because the majority is usually quiet.
Right. Carter, is there any suggestions or thoughts that come to your mind?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am. I
Oh,
apologize.
that's okay. That's okay. The process typically involves doing some sort of warrant study
Okay.
that would indicate whether or not the warrants for that low of a speed limit are necessitated. And what we can do, if it pleases the council, is we can put that together and bring that data forward, and then council can determine whether or not that type of a speed zone in the area described is appropriate, and then you create the ordinance to make that happen.
Is council okay with that, if we give that direction? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Get on it. You bet.
Yep. So we will put together a study and take a look at it, and what they'll do then is we will get that information to see if it warrants it.
I appreciate that.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody else? Good evening.
Good evening. I am Meredith Baker, and I live at, what is my new address? I live on Fenway Street. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. It's my first time in front of you.
You're good.
I live at 1624 South Fenway Street, just in case you want to know. I am here to petition for a three-way stop sign as well as a school zone. The three-way stop sign at the intersection of Sagewood and 25th Street. I kind of have a map to kind of explain why. So I don't know if you guys can really see this, but right here is Sagewood Elementary.
Actually, if you give it to our city manager, he'll put it up on the projector.
So we have Sagewood Elementary, and we have where the bus drops off on Sagewood, and we have where the parents pick up on 25th. Sagewood is not a designated school zone, so the speed limit through there is 30 miles an hour. And there are a lot of kids who have to cross across from 25th over to Sagewood because there are daycares as well as kids who live on that street. So I kind of made a box around the intersection that I would like to see a three-way stop sign. There are, I know of personally, at least 8 kindergartners this year that have to cross that. And last week, there were 3 out of 5 days where a crossing guard was not provided because of short staff through the school. And so I kind of have been talking to the residents as well as other parents, and I asked for their support in this and got signatures and addresses from those who would support me in helping to make a safer environment for these kiddos who are having to cross the street. And I was, I believe it was about 3, I'm not sure if it was 3 to 4 years ago, there was a little boy who was hit crossing Sagewood on his way to school because the speed limit is so that the people driving that aren't aware. And it's especially a problem in the morning. In the afternoon, not so much because the parents are also crowded in that area. You know, you kind of have to drive slowly. But in the morning when parents are dropping off these kiddos, my son as well as another kindergarten classmate were trying to cross the street the other day from childcare over to Sagewood, and they both were almost hit because the cars just don't pay attention because it is 30 miles an hour and there is no stop sign for cars to have to slow down in that intersection. And so I am coming to petition that we get a 3-way stop sign as well as a designated school zone because that is such a busy intersection for the kiddos.
Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to make, Mike?
So, ma'am, on any one of these 3 intersections that are around that school, do any of them have, like, you know, the school crossing pedestrian signs there
They have a crosswalk sign.
with the little school kids and, you know, the sort of
Not that I'm aware of.
thing?
Nope, it just has like a crosswalk saying there's a crosswalk.
Okay, but it doesn't have a sign or anything like around, because I know around some of the schools, they have those school crossing signs.
They don't, yeah, this one doesn't. I thought of also, they have the crosswalk signs that the kids could push the button to light up the signs so that cars can see that the kiddos are there as well.
These intersections have those?
These intersections do not have those. So that's, I'm trying to come up with a problem to this, a solution to the problem.
Are you advocating that there needs to be 3-way stops there all the time or just during school hours?
The residents would like to see it all the time. I spoke to about 6 different residents that live right along that strip, starting about 2 houses. Yeah, there's about 6 houses right there along that. If I could point to it, I would. At the intersection across on Sagewood on the far side, over where I route 3-way stop. So I talked about to about 6 residents who would like to see that all the time because they feel like their kiddos can't even go outside when school's not in session to play because the speed limit is too fast.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask you to, if you have time, to drive over to Willard School.
To what school?
Willard
Okay.
School, which is, some very significant changes were made to First Street to increase the safety for the kids. And I can't remember, do you remember what the title of that program was, Liz? Safe Routes to School. And see if those changes would solve the problem. I'm not opposed to the stop sign, of course, but you might want to look at that because I believe that's a pretty well-researched set of changes that are done around the country, basically, to solve this problem. And so, obviously, we don't have kids crossing there because, well, it's closed now, but it would give you a sense of how that traffic is calmed with that approach. And maybe we'd do both things, but there's a lot of work that's been done to try to figure out how to increase the safety of kids around a school zone, and we may as well make use of that. So I would suggest that you and maybe some of the other parents just take a look at that and see if that would be helpful, and then maybe we can discuss it in a work session as well. And hear from our public works people.
Is it-
What about those stop signs that flash up on 9th and Center? I don't know, it's not.
Have you seen those?
Yes, I have. It's not my area, so.
So here's what I would say is that if we could do some type of, again, have a study done for that area and that three-way section, and have them look at it to see what that would look like and what would be the best way, if it would be stop signs, how that would look. And kind of, I know this is what we just said to the previous gentleman about the 20 miles per hour. This is the speed of government, as much to the chagrin. But so we can get that started. But I would also agree with the vice mayor in going over to Willard and seeing what that looks like and what they've done. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that information to come back, I can't guarantee that there's going to be stop signs or what their recommendation, but it's a high possibility if that is an intersection where kids are crossing, the city staff will come back with a recommendation to make it safer.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
You know, they just did this on 9th and Center at Park School. They put in a four-way stop, and they have lighted stop signs. Remember the one it took them so long to fix, Mr. Manager? It's fixed now. So if you go up to 9th and Center, see what that looks like to you, because that may be the perfect thing.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that any of those solutions would help keep our kids safe, especially since it is not a marked school zone. They have a marked school zone on 21st, but that's 5 blocks away from the school. And these kiddos aren't, I mean, they're crossing more heavily at that intersection.
And then if you feel like, you know, you're getting a little antsy, you haven't heard from anything, give us a call or come back again to one of these meetings and say, hey, government, I haven't heard from you for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Sean Stone here in Casper. I don't know if I'm down to the part or not, but I hear you guys are requesting Hampton Young Jr. for to be the city lawyer. I would like you to think that over a little bit harder. He done me wrong, and he basically took a bribe from National Oil Well to keep my case from going forward. And according to me and my attorneys, we're looking at this. You guys offering him a job and a contract with the city as some sort of a bribery.
Say that again.
As a sort of a bribe.
Who's sort of bribe?
Hampton Young,
You're saying we're bribing him?
way I'm looking at it.
Well, you're totally wrong, period. I can't even imagine you'd come down here and say something. That really irritates me. When somebody says something like that, I think it's totally ignorant. You ought to stick around for the vote. I took it off consent because I want to know more about it. But don't come down here and accuse me of bribing anybody. Doesn't set well with me, and I don't think it sets well with the former chief of police over there or anybody else on this council, because we don't accept bribes. We do what's right.
Well, that's why I'm coming down here, just
That's
to,
ignorance on your part to say that, period. You should apologize to everybody on here.
well, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I didn't quite understand what you were saying. You're saying that Mr. Young had been representing you at some point,
Yes, sir.
and then, you had some kind of litigation with National Oil Well or something
Yes.
like that, and that he then, and did that somehow, are you saying, involve the city?
Well, he had my case for 2.5 to almost 3 years. And then one day just decided he totally forgot about it, said he forgot to file it, and statute of limitations had ran out.
Okay, so you're unhappy with Mr. Young?
No, sir, I am not.
Why are you,
I took him to the state bar. Guy's way out of that as well. I know I probably got a lot of wrong feelings right here, but this is kind of how I stand, and it's how it looks to me. I mean, how else would a lawyer, I mean, sir, you're a lawyer yourself. If a case is on your desk for almost 2.5 to 3 years, are you going to sit there and just look at it and have 2 or 3 paralegals?
That I'm not talking to you about. That your beef with him is one thing, but if you're saying we're giving him a job to bribe him, that is what irritated me. Is that what you said?
That's kind of how I'm looking at it, yes.
Now, I don't even know how you jumped to that conclusion. That almost sounds like, I don't blame you for being mad if somebody didn't do you right. But to come down here and heap that on this city council, that is a personal affront to me. Because I wouldn't take a bribe from some guy because you have a beef with him and risk my entire legal career and my family's livelihood. Are you out of your mind?
Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I might just ask one other thing. So you're unhappy with the prospect that the city is potentially going to enter into a contract with a lawyer that you're not satisfied with?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd just soon have somebody else represent the city of Casper than him.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to, will you tell me your name again?
Stone.
Sean. So Sean, here's what I can say is that I get where you're coming from as far as you're upset and so forth. I would say that this staff, the recommendations that do come up, this council, every single person on this council works really hard to do what is right and what is just. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, obviously. But I would say that this council would never, or this staff, including John Henley, who is our city attorney, who is probably one of the most respected attorneys in this community, would never allow anything like that to happen. And I trust our attorney more than anything else. And so while I can't rectify for you what happened with you and Mr. Young, what I can tell you is from this seat as the mayor, I can guarantee you that we would never do anything like that. But we hear you, and we understand what you're trying to tell us, and but I want to let you know that we're trying to do what is right and what is just.
Okay.
But thank you for coming up here and expressing your opinion, and I want to let you know that we're doing what is right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Anybody else? Okay, please read the consent agenda titles.
Establish October 2nd, 2018 as the public hearing date for consideration of the following 2 items. Ordinance to amend Casper Municipal Code Section 5.08.320, hours of sale of alcohol liquors or malt beverages, and new microbrewery liquor license number 5 for Gruner Brothers Brewing Corporation, doing business as Gruner Brothers Brewing, located at 1301 Wilkins Circle.
Chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing dates just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Humphrey. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the guest registration of hotels, motels, and rooming houses. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Your Honor, I have exhibit number 1, correspondence from John Henley to J. Carter Napier, dated September 5, 2018.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The basic thrust behind this particular proposal is with regard to making the city ordinance compliant with a recent Supreme Court decision that effectively allows for the opportunity of a lodging operator to complete a pre-compliance review of all law enforcement requests to the registers and so forth that the hotels have at their disposal with regard to individuals that are within their facility at whatever given time that might be. And so the ordinance would bring us into compliance with regard to that decision and keep us in observance of the law.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issues involving guest registration to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issues involving guest registration to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in opposition. There being no, excuse me, that was a little early. There being no one to speak for or against the issues involving guest registration, I now declare the public hearing closed. Now. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance repealing and replacing section 5.24.070 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to guest registration of hotels, motels, and rooming houses.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Any discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration and the review of the fiscal year 2017-2018 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Annual Plan Evaluation Report. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Yes, Your Honor, we have 2 exhibits. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier, dated August 28, 2018. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication, is published in the Casper Star Tribune, dated August 28, 2018.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Council is aware of this process wherein staff is required to file what they call a Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, otherwise known as a CAPER, pursuant to the city's use of CDBG funds during a given period of time, in which case this period of time would be July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018. The requirement is not only to file the report, but to seek your approval of its submission prior to its filing.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I ask those individuals who wish to speak regarding the Consolidated Annual Plan Evaluation Report to please approach the lectern. There being no one to speak for or against the issues involving the Consolidated Annual Plan Evaluation Report, I now declare the public hearing closed. This item requires no action by City Council. All comments received for the public comment period and this public hearing will be incorporated into the final report, and the final report will be submitted to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development no later than September 28, 2018. And at this time, no further action is needed by Council. Council will now discuss the ordinance for the zone change at 143, 145, and 159, and 169 West K Street. This item will be open for public comment and discussion by council. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change of lots 1 through 8 inclusive, Block 1, North Burlington Edition in the city of Casper, Wyoming.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read. Anyone?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Humphrey, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. Okay, discussion? Any amendments? Please cast your vote. John, do we need, oh, Sean. Just vote yes. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. Council will now discuss the resolution for court-appointed legal services from Hampton Young Jr., Because this is not on the consent agenda, it will be open for discussion by council. Please read the resolution by title only.
A resolution authorizing a contract with the Law Office of Hampton M. Young Jr., P.C. to provide court-appointed legal services for the Casper Municipal Court.
Chair to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution just read.
So move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Vice Mayor Powell. City Manager report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the opportunity to appoint an attorney who can help us in municipal court with regard to those who may need some level of court-appointed attorney services. Mr. Young did apply, and a fee pursuant to those services was negotiated, and correspondingly, we have submitted a contract for your approval and his appointment.
Thank you. Discussion. Councilman Laird.
I took that off of consent because I didn't know enough about it. So I'm hoping you can explain this. First of all, is it an employment matter that we should be considering this in executive session?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, we do need council's approval with regard to the appointment of this nature in the court. And so that's effectively why we're here. We're at that stage where in order to get him engaged in serving the court, this is the final step.
But I'm wondering if this shouldn't be an executive session matter. I felt like it should be.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, given that indeed this is an independent contract, as kind of an independent contractor, we wouldn't necessarily need to approve this in executive session. Were we to have employee matters, even in the case of the judge, wherein she works for you directly, that you need to discuss, that would be an appropriate topic of conversation in exec, but probably not this.
Did we, the word probably bothers me a little bit, Mr. Manager. How did we put this out for people to know this job was available?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, we did put out an ad, as it were. Ms. Tremmel could certainly go into much more detail than I in terms of who she reached out to and how she got the word out that we needed this type of service. But we effectively put out a bid, if you will, for the position, much like we do many other employment positions in the organization. We received responses, and we evaluated those and chose Mr. Young.
So you had other people apply?
Can I confirm that real quick?
Yes.
How many or if others? Councilman, I stand corrected. Mr. Young was the sole applicant with regard to this opportunity.
So I don't know that if any of the other council people know Mr. Young. I know who he is, but I don't know if he even does this kind of work. I mean, it's criminal defense work. It's a very serious type of legal work that would require someone who knows what they're doing, because they're going to have to be going up against our city attorney's office. So I don't know how this person was vetted. I really don't know whether he does criminal defense work or not, or how much he's done or what kind. So can anybody enlighten me on that?
I have Councilman Walsh wants to make a comment, and Councilman Huber. Go ahead, Councilman Walsh. Hold on one second, Dallas.
I can't offer any answer to the question you just put out, and I don't know him either. I was just looking at the memo. RFP went out, and one person responded to that, and that was the individual we're talking about, Hampton Young. And I would just assume that the RFP went out in a standard fashion, probably 2 or 3 weeks posting time. Not knowing him or anything about him, it looks like the processes that have been followed in the past were followed on this one to make the selection on him. I
Councilman
don't see anything out of line.
He might be feeling like Judge Kavanaugh feels on the Supreme Court deal. I just don't know. I mean, you know, I'm just not going to appoint somebody unless I know whether they're qualified to do it.
Councilman Huber.
Mr. Mayor, but I had the same question that Councilman Walsh did, that was he the only applicant, and and I guess he's the only applicant that we've got. I'm aware of Mr. Young. I've seen him in court several times over the years. I have not seen him for quite a few years. Even before I'd retired, it had been some time since I'd seen him in court. Everything that I ever saw when he represented anyone in court, I thought he did a competent, workmanlike job, and lawyered his way through cases in a lawyerly-like manner. And so I'm comfortable with hiring him in that respect. I'd be comfortable. I think this would be an at-will kind of a proposition, and so if it wasn't working out for whatever reason, we could change that quickly. And so I don't know, Councilman Laird, if that answers your questions or.
You know, I usually when I am considering this kind of an issue and have for the city, I go check with other lawyers and judges. And when I saw this, I wasn't sure how this was really going to be handled and what vetting was done and all of that. So I wouldn't even be prepared to vote on it myself till I did that. And I don't know, Mr. Manager. I think it should be done in an executive session. I do. I think that. That's just my personal opinion. It's an important job, and I don't know if Mr. Henley knows him or has worked with him, or any of the people in the city attorney's office. I'd like to hear from them as well. And Mr. Henley, were you or any of your lawyers that would be handling cases at city court consulted on this?
We were not consulted per se, but we did know of the contract, and I did have a chance to visit with our prosecutor, Mr. Zekeli, who's aware of Mr. Young and has had cases with him. I know I've had cases at least one case in the past with him too. It was in a civil context, but I do believe that Mr. Young defended an accused in the Douglas Converse County Circuit Court within the last 6 weeks, and was able to get an acquittal in a jury trial for that individual. So I know he does some work, whether it's a preponderance of his work or just a third of his work or whatever, I don't know. But it sounds to me that he was competent from what I know of him personally and what I've heard of him. But as far as the executive session, I think that you would need to be voting on that in any event. So I think this is the proper context here. It's not. This is an independent contractor. I mean, we hire independent contractors with respect to computer services, any number of things that come through the city hall, and this is just one of those things.
Councilman Walsh.
Yeah, I don't mean to really drag out a conversation. As for me, all I'm looking at is the process, and the process appears to be followed just as it has on many other things. And to tell you the truth, I don't want to look at qualifications so much. It would be, so, we appoint a judge. Internally, we have a prosecutor. It would be very easy to say, okay, you guys are vetting a candidate to either win cases or not be able to win cases. And I would just as soon take the staff's recommendation on this one. And I know I was criticizing you for it earlier, doing this same thing. Qualified, met the requirements. that's where I stand. I'm going to go
An
with the
interesting
staff's
world out there, isn't it?
Well, it can be, you're right.
Any other discussion? Amendments? Okay, please cast your vote.
No, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to abstain.
Please record the vote.
And I'm abstaining because I really
Right.
don't know the
Yeah.
guy.
With Councilman Laird's abstention noted, motion passes.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
A resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the contract for professional services with CH2M Hill Engineers Incorporated for the Sam H. Hobbs Wastewater Treatment Plant MCC Replacement Project. A resolution authorizing an agreement with Western States Fire Protection Company for the Life Steps Campus Building F Fire Suppression and Campus Fire Alarm System Replacement Project. A resolution authorizing a contract for outside city water service with Marguerite Hardy and Tim Hardy Joint Revocable Living Trust. A resolution authorizing an agreement with Andreen Hunt Construction Incorporated for the Coulter Drive Alley Drainage Improvements Project. A resolution authorizing a contract for professional services with Big West Landscaping LLC. A resolution authorizing a Natrona County road license between Natrona County and the City of Casper for the West Casper Zone 2 Water System Improvements Project. A resolution authorizing the execution of an M54 utility license with the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the installation of a 3-inch HDPE casing and 1.5-inch water service line at 7475 Highway 220. A resolution adopting the 2017 Natrona County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Walsh, seconded by Councilman Humphrey. Any abstentions or nay votes? Councilman Johnson?
I'll abstain from item 9A5.
Any other abstentions?
Yeah, hang on a minute. I don't have a 9A.
Page 7.
Page 7.
What'd you say,
985. There it shows. These are your, okay, it's B5 on this one.
Oh, it's a B5.
Well, I don't know, maybe mine might be an older version.
In any case, it's the one with Big West Landscaping LLC.
Heritage Hills?
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
abstention. On
That's your abstention, okay. Any other abstentions? Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With Councilman Johnson's abstention noted, the motion passes.
At this time, we ask council members to bring forward any relevant issues or concerns or items of interest. So, Councilman Walsh.
In the future here, I don't know if it will be within the month or not. A lot of that is dependent on me at this point right now, but I've been working with the city manager's office, the police chief, and the city attorney's office on an updated ordinance that to address some of the issues on vicious animals. And so what I would like to do is, so just giving you the mystery part of it, let you all see that, go over it. We also put it out there where the public can view it, offer comment, and then we can get a good finalized outcome on this thing. And I'll also give you the background on it and why I think it may be important. That'll be forthcoming, and I'm not telling you exactly when because I don't have that answer. Hopefully I can get my part of it wrapped up this weekend, and we'll be able to get rolling on it.
Great. Thank you. Councilman Huber, you have anything?
Nothing.
Councilman Hopkins.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Johnson.
Just the reason for my abstention is I work with and am friends with the person that owns that company. So just wanted to avoid any conflict of interest. That's it.
Thanks. Councilman Humphreys. Sorry.
I have a little list, and it's mostly kind of traffic related. Sounds like maybe we've had quite a few accidents over on Beach in the 12th and 13th area. So when we talked about flashing stop signs, I don't know if that's an option, but I think we had a couple over the weekend. Also had somebody reach out, the 2400 block of Shumway. Sounds like there's a blind corner and they're worried about kids being hit, but I have not driven over there, so I don't know what it looks like. They thought maybe a speed bump would be a good idea, but I know that's not typically something the city does, so maybe there's another mechanism to try to slow people down. Heard a little bit about concern for snow removal already on Rainbow Drive, so I'll just throw that out there. And then the last feedback I got was trees as we're designing our new developments. The Coles area kind of actually was, they didn't say that area, but I got a good taste of that. When we're putting the trees right kind of by the street and that grassy area, and then you have the sidewalk, the trees are blocking the complete view of looking to your left so you can pull out in front of traffic. So I just want to throw that out there that I did actually notice that when I was power shopping emotionally. So I'm curious, you know, when we start hearing accidents, traffic, you know, I realize that that tells me that the chief is short-handed and that it's busy at the PD, and I kind of anticipate that that means they are call hopping, call to call, and no time to actually do the proactive stuff. So Chief, whatever you need, man, I support you 100%. I know you guys are swamped, so that's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilman Laird.
Let me get my notebook. I don't have anything. Thank you, Mr.
Vice Mayor.
I wasn't ready to go yet. You were pontificating what you were going to say, right? I will be absent next week, which I apologize for, since both of the major items on the work session agenda were things I requested, which was a review of the visitor center and their calculations as to the impact of facilities on our local economy, and then also the non-motorized transportation plan. So I will be watching, and I hope that information is helpful. I guess I'd like to restate what I said in our work session about the 1 cent process. I think with all of the discussion about funds that are being promised to various nonprofit entities, if the tax passes, tends to get an inordinate amount of attention. And the passage of the 1 cent is critical for this community. The vast majority of the funds of the tax money that the city obtains through the 1 cent process is used for the things that we all agree upon: maintenance of our streets, replacing water and sewer lines that are failing, upgrading equipment for our fire department and our police department. That is what the 1 cent is for. And yes, there are some other things that are done, upgrading parks and fixing other facilities that the city owns. And then this relatively small amount of money that we are allocating to various nonprofit entities that do work that really benefits all of our citizens, even if they don't directly utilize those services. So I hope that we can keep that in perspective as people consider this vote and recognize that the city of Casper, as we know it, really needs to continue this 1 cent process so we can continue to have a livable community for all of us. And so let's be concerned and supportive of these various requests that we discussed this evening. But let's also be mindful of the fact that it is a portion of the 1 cent process, and that the lion's share is the things that I mentioned earlier. So thank you.
I think I don't have too much tonight, but I want to thank the troop for coming in. We appreciate it. I know it was probably the most riveting hour of your lives. I think at one point somebody was counting tiles. No. This is government. This is government. Yeah, it was Councilman Walsh, you guys. You know, government doesn't always. It's not always easy, but it's a part of how we do things. And I think one of the messages I always tell young people, and I'm speaking just to you guys, is that we can do that. We can run government with dignity, we can run it with compassion, and we can do that with respect to our fellow people and respect to our fellow people that we work with, and we can disagree. And so remember, you can disagree with someone, you can still respect them, and still be friends with them. So thanks for coming, you guys. The next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, September 25th, 2018 in the council meeting room, and a regular council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018 in the council chambers. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.